Hey guys, welcome back to NWCS. And now that we've already made the jig so we can actually route out all of our hinges on our actual door jamb, the next thing we need to do is actually set up our router and our jig to actually route the proper depth. I have them all laid out as far as location, but I do want to actually set the router to the proper depth, so I want to set the router bit to just as deep as the hinge. So I use my combination square to set it to the proper depth to match all my hinges, and now I use my combination square to also scribe that same depth to the front side of my door jamb. And all I have to do is actually mount my actual hinge jig with some double stick tape in the locations that I already have marked, and then I have to set the proper depth on my router. This being a plunge router, all I have to do is again plunge and then lock it in right when it's at the proper, right when it's just barely kissing that line. I'm gonna clamp everything in place so I don't have to worry about things shifting around on me as I go through the routing process. And then all I have to do is again dial in the depth stop here. It has a little turret style, so I can actually so if I was doing a deeper mortise, and I can actually set up to have my depth stop rod rest on one of the higher turrets, and then I can just pretty much rotate it so I can plunge down 1/4 inch on each turn. But in this case, I'm able to do this in a single pass just by lowering the bit to where it just meets my line. I think my first pass was a little bit deeper than I wanted, so I actually ended up raising it up just a little bit, and then the rest of these actually fit in perfectly. So all I have to do is rinse and repeat this process on all of my actual hinge locations and on both door jambs. But again, because I use a story pole to lay everything out, I know that all these hinge locations are going to line up perfectly with the other door jamb and also with the actual doors themselves, because everything was laid out with the exact same story pole. So this gives you repeatability and accuracy that makes hinging doors a lot easier. One thing I will say about this process that I never had to do was actually make a custom hinge mortising jig that actually works for a door jamb like this one. I ended up actually adding some pieces of wood or scrap to the bottom of my jig itself. That was just so I can actually raise it up a little bit taller. I wanted my router to ride on the jig and not the door jamb itself, just because I didn't want to have any type of interference when I was actually doing the routing process. So I just nailed on some blocks of wood just to raise it up just a little bit more. The last two crucial tips that I can give to keep in mind while doing this process is make sure that your router jig is actually butted firmly up against your doorstop so you're getting a nice square cut and that you're placed properly on your lines. The second one though is router direction. As you're exiting the cut, I try to actually make sure right where I would exit, I plunge the router into the cut just a little bit, pretty much doing a climb cut right at that very edge to try to prevent any type of tear out. And then I'll do the rest of it in a standard routing orientation. But if you guys have enjoyed this process, let me know down in the comments, leave me a like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.